Hi, everybody. Welcome once again to what is supposed to be a true crime show, but I would be remiss if I didn't check in on Los Angeles because we are yet another hour away from a second night of curfew. And if you were watching last night, you know, we saw scenes like this. And as it turned out, there were, I think, 200 people arrested last night after curfew went into effect. Mostly today, things were pretty peaceful, but these are the scenes that we've been watching as we get ready for yet another curfew that's, like I said, just about an hour away. And also, we just got word that there is this showdown outside of City Hall between police and protesters. They were given a 10-minute dispersal. These images are never good, especially when it's still daylight. And I say that because I've been around the block when it comes to a lot of these riots, and usually things get ugly like this when the nightfall comes. The action usually gets going when it's dark. Let's just listen for a bit. Okay, so these were some of the scenes that we've been collecting, you know, over the course of the last. Geez, yikes! That's not great. Let me get to Alex Capriello up live, and Alex, maybe you could just put into context some of the images that we've been looking at, that you know our crews have been collecting as they've been all around the downtown part of LA today.
Yeah, so Ashleigh, City Hall is about one block that way. It was a significantly larger protest, about 1,000 to 1,500 people that got pushed by these police officers on horses, as well as sheriff's deputies. You can see even more reinforcements are coming right here. The protesters have collected on this staircase, so it's sort of a showdown, so to speak. Face to face, eye to eye. Horses still here on the street, the protesters standing their ground on the steps, sort of baiting the police officers to try to bring those horses up here. We're going to see exactly what the tactic is. Throughout the course of these last few days, when I've been watching these police tactical activity, it's typically something where they actually sort of bring reinforcements and surround them from the backside, flank them, and then slowly they push on, and that's how they're able to make those mass arrests. You know, upwards of 200 that were collected just around last night after curfew. So we're going to see exactly how this plays out, but I would say that there are, as far as I could tell, more police officers here on scene than there are protesters. But again, there's somewhere around 1,000 or so that were just here about 20, 30 minutes ago. Not sure exactly where they're going. Hoping to get some more aerial footage to find out what their path is, if they plan on going back to the federal building or if they've dispersed for the night. But for right here, outside of City Hall, a one-on-one showdown, Ashleigh.
Well, you know, we're like 57 minutes to curfew. I remember checking in with you at this time last night, and there didn't seem to be this much kinetic energy going on. It seemed a lot more peaceful. Just makes me wonder if we're in for a different night tonight. Are you getting a sense? Because oftentimes you can just feel it.
Well, what was interesting last night when I spoke to you was it was outside of a prayer vigil that was also very sizable, about 750. They announced at the end of that prayer vigil, we're going to peacefully go down to the federal building and show them that we could protest with our voices. Little did they know that that might actually backfire by actually gathering more people together. You're right, that is kinetic energy that all of a sudden develops and forms and actually creates maybe a sense of excitement among the people. So there is not the same concentration of people. Right now, they have them sort of corralled for the moment. It'll be interesting to see where these other folks went, if they are back towards the federal building. But right now, as far as what I can see outside City Hall, it's pretty closely contained, although it is a very tense showdown.
Yeah, let me just read two quotes, and it basically tells you where things are at from the leadership. First, the LA mayor, Karen Bass, said this: "This is real. The Trump administration deployed 700 Marines and 4,000 National Guard members to respond to a few blocks in downtown. Meanwhile, there are fewer troops in Iraq and Syria." But for his part, Donald Trump sent this message out, quote, "If I didn't act quickly on that, Los Angeles would be burning to the ground right now." So, you know, the war of words continues. Doesn't look that good on the ground, at least right now. I'm hoping that we don't break in with you. I love you, Alex, but if we break in with you, it means that things are going sideways. So keep us apprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I will, Ashleigh.
Okay, Alex Capriello is going to watch everything for us. Like I said, folks, this is a true crime show. I don't usually expect to be doing, riots live in the streets in an American city, one of the largest American cities. But I do have my finger on the pulse. I will bring you whatever happens, and Alex is going to do the job for us on the ground there. Couple things I do want to bring to your attention, though, on this program as we move forward in this hour. Not far away from where Alex is, there's a whole other story brewing. That's celebrity town, right? Los Angeles. And one of the biggest celebrities is Justin Bieber. And there is just this weird story brewing. If you've been following, it's no secret. Bieber's been acting unusually. A lot of concern. My friend over at TMZ, Harvey Levin, did a whole special on what's going on with Justin Bieber. He's been losing weight. He's been acting strange. He's been going after paparazzi. And the allegations and rumors are that he is involved a little too heavily maybe in a religion that may be more like a cult than a religion. Today, I have this interview with a Branch Davidian. And if you're old enough to know what that means, it means a guy who survived Waco. He's got some advice for Justin Bieber. I'm going to bring you that conversation. It is so insightful. The thin line between religion and cult. He's going to give you that in just a moment. Also, you know that whole New Orleans jail break? Well, as it turns out, maybe the locks aren't the issue. Maybe it's the keys to the locks, because you know that the sheriff in charge of this jail has blamed city council for not giving them the money to fix this jail and that the locks are faulty. Well, guess what? City council is answering, saying, yeah, it's not the locks. It's that the keys to the locks are all over town. Listen to the councilman.
It doesn't really matter if the locks are broken when you fire people and don't take back the keys.
Oh, man, war of words. Anyway, I've got a lot more of what he has to say and a response, and then a few more updates on these fugitives all over the country. And then, did you hear the one about R. Kelly, who's only a couple years into his decades-long sentence? He wants to go home. And it's not just because he doesn't like where he is. He says there's literally a death target on his head. Usually when you hear that, it's a beef between inmates. But R. Kelly says it ain't the inmates that want him dead. It's the government. I am not kidding. And to prove that to you, I have his lawyer on the program tonight to tell you exactly what the allegation is and why they have the proof. Okay, all of that coming in just a moment, but let's begin here with Justin Bieber. And the thing that so many people are talking about, his mental state and the rumors that he's joined a cult. Things would be so much easier if cults would just call themselves cults and be done with it. But they never do. The People's Temple, Heaven's Gate, the Branch Davidians, they all called themselves religious groups. But their members ended up dead. NXIVM was called a professional development organization or something of the like, but its members ended up being robbed and raped. And the trouble is, it's really, really tough to find the line between a familiar group that enhances your world and a dangerous group that's a threat to your life. And there's the complication right there that is now enveloping a West Coast church with an A-list membership. And one member in particular who's brought a lot of unwanted attention on the whole operation. The roots of this story go back decades to 1999, because that is when a young single mom attended a Christian conference in Toronto, Canada, and was wowed by a charismatic Seattle-based preacher named Judah Smith. She brought home recordings of Mr. Smith's sermons, and she played them for her 5-year-old son. Fast forward a decade to 2010, and that now teenage boy and Pastor Judah are megastars in their respective fields and reportedly joined at the hip. The boy, ding ding, you guessed it, Justin Bieber, a pop music idol and devoted member of the group called Church Home, but hardly its only celebrity disciple. The church has congregations in California and Washington State, and services reportedly attract hundreds of thousands of people online and in person. The Beverly Hills service is said to be a who's who from TV and music and sports and movies and you name it, celebs all over the place. Justin Bieber reportedly attends the service via Zoom from home. So what exactly is the problem? A few weeks back, TMZ reported that Bieber and a man named Ryan Good, who was a longtime friend of his and a co-founder of Bieber's clothing line, had a falling out over church home, that religion. TMZ says that Ryan Good was a member there as well, but left because it started to feel like, any guesses? A cult. And even that might have blown over had Bieber not been the source of so much speculation and concern for his well-being lately. That same week, a gaunt and seemingly troubled Bieber had a public run-in with the paparazzi. And since then, he has posted a litany of bizarre photos on Instagram with ominous captions about religion and about God. For his part, Church Home's pastor, Judah Smith, laughs off the questions, saying, and I quote, "If we're a cult, we are the worst cult in the history of all cults. We meet once a month. Guys, I stopped doing this every Wednesday. We've got to get better at this." End quote. Earlier today, I spoke with someone who knows a lot about cults. She certainly knows a cult when he sees one. David Thibodeau is a former member of the Branch Davidians, a cult led by David Koresh. Thibodeau is one of only 9 survivors of that fiery siege at Waco in 1993. He's the author of, quote, "Waco, a survivor's story." And he's got some advice for Justin Bieber based on his own lived experience in a cult. Here's our conversation. Tell me your thoughts about Justin Bieber and your concerns for him.
So, I mean, really, everyone has a right to their faith. This is America. You can worship a fishbowl and believe in a fish as your creator and God if you wish to. That's the great thing about the Constitution and the right to have your own faith, if you will. And I just like to point out to people that every single religion started off as what people call a cult. It's usually one person that starts a new vision or a new sect or a new segment. Some people follow him, and then it grows and grows and grows over time. Mormonism, Christianity, the Catholic Church, all of it at one point was a small church that some people thought was weird and called a cult. So I personally don't like to use that term, but I understand there are some destructive religions, and if you get the wrong leader who wants to basically control and run every aspect of someone's life, then yeah, you could get in trouble. Now with Justin, what's happening, I guess some of his friends are leaving and saying that they think that the influence is too strong, that he's in a group. I personally don't know. I'm not there.
Can you give me your thoughts about warning signs, things that, as advice for Justin, what should he be looking for that you now know because you lived through but didn't see it at the time?
Sure. It's just about going with what what your gut says. There's all kinds of times that you feel that you're doing something wrong, but everyone around you is telling you it's right. And even though you have that feeling with so many people influencing it, it can overcome your own feeling of what's right and wrong. So again, the social proof, if a lot of people's telling him to do one thing, start to think about the other. That's number one. Number two is read other different viewpoints. Don't get caught in just like if his, I don't know. I don't know this about his group, so I'm not saying anything bad about his group. I don't know. I haven't attended that church. But if they're Bible based and they're saying only read the Bible, that's a huge red flag. You should always be able to use your intellect and to use your mind to grow instead of staying in one space and thinking very small, very myopic. That's really the huge danger.
The other thing that is significantly different from the Branch Davidians and, the people that Justin is aligning himself with is that they are, I believe, once a month. They meet once a month. It's not an in-your-face everyday kind of association. Do you see that as an asset?
Yeah, that's a very good thing because that gives Justin plenty of time to have his own thoughts, to think his own thoughts. Now, I don't know how much time he's spending with this leader. Apparently, there's a lot of controversy about the leader. But again, having that time away is good. It's very good. And I don't know if they meet just once a month. I mean, I've never heard most churches are at least once a week. But I guess that was what this pastor had said, that it's once a month. So he could be exaggerating a little. I'm not sure.
You think it's an asset as well that he's not 18. He's well on his way in life.
Yeah, that's the thing, between like your teenager, your teen years and your early 20s, very influential. I mean, really, most people that become radicalized that early on in life. The more you live and the more you go through and the more you see, the more disappointments you have in life, especially, the more you tend not to believe whatever somebody's going to say or what a book says or what this says or what that says, or especially, please forgive me, what the media says. There's a lot of times the media has flat out lied about me personally. So I understand where that goes, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't really fight that. All you can do is just be there for your friends. That's what I try to do. The people that know me know that some of the outlandish stuff that people said about me is absolutely ridiculous. And you just got to toughen up a little bit and have a rough skin. That's all.
I'm old enough to have been around for Jonestown. And I've always wondered how people could be so allied to a leader like Jim Jones that they would put their own children in grave danger. Can you explain it? Can you give me insight?
Yeah, that's happened over and over again. We have a bunch of leaders, and when they take us to war and they take your young men, our young men, and they take them off to fight, a lot of times they're very disillusioned. Like, I'll use the example of Vietnam. They didn't even know what they were fighting for in that war. And they came back very disillusioned because what they were told they were going to do and what they did and found out when they learned when they got there were two totally different things. So it's not just a person. Governments do it. They all do it. This influence of control, if you will. And again, it's not about putting the children first, it's about putting God first. And there are many people out there, especially if you're raised with the Bible or with religion. Say you're raised with Muhammad, for that matter. Say you're of Islam. There's many religions where God is first. Period. It becomes God comes before everything in many religions, and because of that, those people think that everything is going to step in place. They're God first, then their spouses, then their children. There's kind of an order there, but it's always God first. So we may have a different view of that here in the Western world, but there's billions of people all over that put God before everything, and so that's just something I'd have your listeners think about a little bit too.
So interesting. Still to come on this program, why a Grammy-winning entertainer thinks he deserves to be let out of prison. Currently, it is not an option for R. Kelly. He's only 3 years into a 30-year federal sentence, but his lawyer says R. Kelly may not be alive much longer if he stays in that prison. And get this, he says the government has put a murder bounty on the R&B singer's head. How on earth could that be true? R. Kelly's attorney is live to answer that next. Long before the walls closed in on P. Diddy, another pop music megastar was charged with racketeering and sex trafficking, among other things. And he was convicted 2 times. R. Kelly has spent the last 3 years, almost to the day, in a medium security federal prison in Butner, North Carolina. His 2022 trial in Brooklyn ended with a sentence of 30 years. His 2023 trial in Chicago got him 20 years as well. And they're supposed to run mostly at the same time. But now R. Kelly wants out. And he says his life depends on it. He says that every minute he spends locked up at Butner, he is in danger. And why? The way his lawyers tell it, prison officials want R. Kelly dead. You heard me. The government, they say, has put a target on the singer in prison. And what's more, Kelly's lawyers say the Bureau of Prisons conspired with one of his fellow inmates, a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, to murder him. I'm joined now by Beau Brindley, attorney for R. Kelly. Mr. Brindley, I'm so glad to have you on this show. Thanks so much for being a guest. I mean, what I just read, what I just said, it just all sounds very fantastical. Do you have proof?
Well, the answer is we do have proof, and we appreciate the opportunity to be able to come on and talk about it. In terms of proof, the most powerful piece of proof I can provide is the sworn statement of the man who says that he was solicited to kill R. Kelly. Michael Glenn Stein has provided us with a full declaration signed, and he's given his willingness to sit down for a polygraph examination administered by either side to testify in court. He has given us the details of who solicited him and when. And I think that's the key here. These are not R. Kelly's allegations. These are the allegations being made by Michael Glenn Stein, who's the person who says that he was solicited to kill Robert and sent to Butner to do it from another facility. And we took significant time. Oh, I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'm trying to put a lot of the pieces of the puzzle together as you're answering. And I'm just confused if this inmate allegedly said that the Bureau of Prisons sought him out to murder a fellow inmate, why?
Well, that's an excellent question, and the answer to that is also pretty clear. Mr. Stein, in his declaration, has set forth the reason that was given. The reason is that Mr. Kelly was about to expose some facts that would be extremely inflammatory and damaging to the Bureau of Prisons and the Department of Justice. And because of that, the Bureau of Prisons instructed Michael Glenn Stein to go to Butner and execute R. Kelly. And Mr. Stein made clear and gave us extraordinary detail when we spoke to Mr. Stein. We didn't use this until we actually went down and met with Mr. Stein for hours. And he told us in extraordinary detail that this is not the first instance, that this happens all the time, that the Aryan Brotherhood has been directed to commit murders and beatings at the behest of prison officials for years. People have been killed who pose problems for officers, for lawsuits, and it happens, according to Mr. Stein. Not only will he tell you that it happens, he will explain, when given the opportunity, in great detail, all of these murders in which he has participated, which he has directed other Aryan Brotherhood people to do. This being the most recent.
Can I ask you to just, like murder's a big deal, right? I think we can all agree on that. And putting a target on someone's head, kind of a last resort. What kind of information are we talking about that allegedly R. Kelly is in possession of that would be unflattering to the government at a level that would, suggest that a hit was put on his head?
Well, let me say it this way. It's not allegedly having evidence. We do have evidence, and one piece of evidence we've already presented in the form of a signed declaration from Keyshawn Mogadamudi, Robert's former cellmate. And what he describes is having been solicited by prosecutors who are offering him a reduced sentence in exchange for stealing Mr. Kelly's privileged attorney-client correspondence, funneling it through an identified Bureau of Prisons officer, a corrupt officer, and then that was provided to the U.S. Attorney's Office. This man has made a statement, and both he and Mr. Stein are making statements that are absolutely not in their own personal interest, and yet they've done it anyway. And so we do have that evidence, and what that evidence means is we're talking about prosecutors and Bureau of Prison guards, not just guards, but officials, people that are officers. We're talking about these people committing crimes. The theft of Mr. Kelly's mail was a crime, and it was a violation of his constitutional rights. On top of that, there's another prison guard against which a lawsuit is pending, Tawana Ingram, who also stole other attorney-client correspondence.
Let me jump in here, because I've been around the block as you have as well. And if I had a dime for the number of inmates who lied under oath, on the stand, you name it, I'd be on a yacht in the Med. However, suggesting that the government thinks that this alleged behavior of a cellmate of R. Kelly's is so egregious that the only remedy is to solicit murder sounds a bit crazy. Again, given it would be their word against an inmate. So you see where I'm coming from, right? That's why it sounds fantastical. And I guess the other question to add to that is that if the threat is over, meaning the man allegedly solicited to kill R. Kelly has come clean and said, I won't do it, I'm going to sing like a canary instead, where's the threat?
The threat is the other members of the Aryan Brotherhood, another one of which has been identified, who has been asked to carry out what Mike Stein has been unwilling to do. That's what you have to understand. What we're talking about here is government officials who committed crimes, and people in the Bureau of Prisons that committed crimes. Crimes that the current administration, the current Department of Justice will have no sympathy for, I guarantee. And those people have benefited in going after R. Kelly and making their names and getting their publicity and all of that. And now the truth is they did it through constitutional violations. They did it through crimes. That Tawana Ingram, the Bureau of Prisons officer that stole his correspondence, there was a search warrant, they proved it, and they said they were going to investigate the U.S. Attorney's Office. You know what happened to her? She got her full pension. She walked away, retired, and was not charged. And she did it as an officer.
Well, let me ask you
if there was not corruption behind that, I don't understand how that could be.
Right, an inmate doesn't have a pension. So what would possibly be the incentive for an inmate to commit a murder in prison at the behest of the government? Like, what benefit? What do they get?
It depends on the circumstances. What Mr. Stein says is oftentimes what they get is the ability to traffic narcotics freely throughout the facility. What they get is the ability not to be searched. But in this instance, what Mr. Stein has clearly said he gets is the opportunity to be free. I mean, they have said to Mr. Stein, according to him, they have said that if he is to do this, he is a terminal cancer patient. He's going to die in the near future. That's a fact. And they have said that he will be transferred and he'll get the opportunity to walk away. And Michael Glenn Stein has a history of escaping from the Bureau of Prisons. He escaped previously. That's why he spent so long at the ADX Supermax in Florence. And all of a sudden, he was moved to this relatively low-security facility at Butner and put near R. Kelly. That's a fact. And the other fact is, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say I'm out of time in this segment. However, I would like to keep the conversation going with you. I know you have other, options. You're suggesting that maybe even Donald Trump might consider pardoning R. Kelly, though I'm not sure what's in it for Donald Trump. Could you keep me apprised on your efforts to get him, ankle bracelet release and home detention, and your efforts in seeking a federal pardon? Can you keep us apprised on that?
Absolutely. We're going to seek every opportunity to, one, make sure that Robert Kelly doesn't get killed, and number two, to see that he is freed based on what we believe to be and will prove to be a corrupt prosecution, the kind of which President Trump has promised to eradicate. And I believe he's the only person. 2
corrupt prosecutions?
What? What was
2
your question?
corrupt prosecutions? There were 2 separate ones. There were 2 separate ones.
Yes, but the evidence being provided
so they were both
was
corrupt?
both of them.
Okay.
Absolutely. Both of them received.
Okay, keep me posted. I got to go,
yes,
but Bo Brindley, I really appreciate, sorry, we have some crosstalk, but I really appreciate this. Keep me posted and we'll follow the story. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, coming up next, a surefire way to get out of any jail in the world, get yourself a key. And I'm not crazy here. When 10 inmates broke free here, these pictures from New Orleans, this is about a month ago, the sheriff said the locks in the jail were bad. But now a city councilman says the best locks in the world could not keep those inmates inside if the keys to the jail are floating all over town. And he's showing his receipts.
These are the keys to the jail. These are actual keys to the actual jail. I want to highlight right here so you can see. Keys to the jail.
Yeah, he's not kidding. How those keys made it into his hands and what the sheriff says is actually happening here. That's next. Okay, it has been almost a month, and frankly, I am starting to feel a little like a broken record, talking about those jail escapees from New Orleans. No, they haven't been found. Yes, they're still looking for them, at least 2 of these guys, including the, one with the face tattoos. But something else has just cropped up, and it is worrisome, while at the same time, actually, it's almost comical. A city councilman thinks he knows why it was so easy for these guys to break out like this. Keys. He says you can find the keys to the jail all over New Orleans.
There's one particular thing that I want to bring to your attention. So we heard a lot during our meetings, and the sheriff's been in the media talking about how there's so many busted locks in the jail and how locks are a problem. One of the whistleblowers we met with as a former employee said that when they left, there was one key thing the sheriff's office doesn't collect. These are the keys to the jail. These are actual keys to the actual jail. I want to highlight right here so you can see. Keys to the jail. So it doesn't really matter if the locks are broken when you fire people and don't take back the keys.
Oh, damn. Right? That is a burn. No, that is a roast. For their part, though, the sheriff's office has been blaming City Hall for suffocating budget constraints that have led to the jail being less than secure, way understaffed, and rusting to the point of, this. And as for the story about the keys, the sheriff says the councilman is full of it. In an online post, their office said the following: to be clear, we are in possession of all the keys to the jail. The ones you're showing off don't open the jail or any cell. I would be careful with putting out misinformation to the public, especially regarding public safety and security. So it's another roast. In print, it's not as exciting, but it's a roast. Regardless of all of it, now the state attorney general's office is weighing in, and they're saying, we're looking into it. So watch this space. I will report on what they have to say. Meantime, clear across the country in Washington state, we thought last night that police had all but closed in on Travis Decker, a fugitive wanted for the murder of his own 3 little girls. Someone believed to be Decker was seen acting strangely on a hiking trail last night, even running from a helicopter when it was overhead. But late today, the Chelan County Sheriff said the search for Decker continues, which means if it was him, they didn't catch him. A sheriff said that some apparent, quote, items of interest have been found and that a change in tactics is coming as the manhunt for Decker wraps up its 2nd week. And then finally, before we go to break, I have an update from Idaho, where there's been yet another attempt by the defense to save Bryan Kohberger from the firing squad if he's convicted of the quadruple murder. Apparently, the defense plans to bring up Kohberger's teenage heroin addiction, along with a childhood car accident that supposedly caused long-term trauma. The state has already responded to the latest request for a delay in the trial. Here is Brian Enton on the subject.
Ashleigh, you'll remember that Bryan Kohberger's defense has asked to delay the trial, saying that it should not start in August because they need more time to prepare and because of that leak of sensitive information to Dateline. Now the prosecution has officially responded and said, wait a minute, there should not be a delay. Number one, they say, yes, the Dateline leak was bad, but delaying the trial could actually make it even harder to find a fair jury. And they also say it's just not fair to the victims' families, that they've been waiting, and to keep delaying it is just unfair to them. They are ready for the trial to go in August. But what's interesting is in this new paperwork where the prosecution is responding to the defense and saying don't delay the trial, there's some new tidbits of information. They actually lay out some of the things that the defense claims that they needed more time to work on and say, no, you actually have documents on this already. And one of the things that they spoke about was Bryan Kohberger's trauma history. I hadn't heard much about this before, but they talked about a childhood car accident involving Bryan Kohberger and witnesses who could actually be called to testify about that. Is that perhaps a window into something that the defense is going to bring up during the trial? Possibly. Right now, we'll be waiting for a hearing on June 18th, Wednesday, June 18th. That's when the judge will hear both sides and decide whether or not to delay. Ashleigh?
Brian Enton does not miss a beat. He's going to continue following this case. And by the way, you should know, for now, Kohberger's quadruple murder trial is still on track to start on August 11th. That is 2 months from today, to be exact. Confession time. I just learned a valuable life lesson from a man charged with a cold-blooded murder. It seems while lots of people talk about counting their blessings, Luigi Mangione, of all people, he really does it. And I've got his list of blessings. Let me just say, you are not going to believe number 11. It may change how you feel about him. That's next. Remember your 27th birthday? What you did, who was there, what you got, what you ate? Luigi Mangione turned 27 in jail last month, and while one doesn't exactly celebrate at the federal lockup in Brooklyn, the alleged CEO assassin did do something special. He made a list of 27 things for which he is grateful. First and foremost, his friends, who Luigi says were there for him when he needed them most. He does not name names, though, which is probably a good thing in case any of those friends helped him out during the 5-day fugitive stage, right, of his life. He also says he's a fan of the music library at the jail and that he can barely keep up with all the books that he's been sent, including the classic Fahrenheit 451, which he calls a favorite. Number 9 on Luigi's list is his cellmate, identified only as Jay. He says that Jay, quote, reads more of my books than I do, and, quote, doesn't hesitate to humble me when I need it. Right behind Jay on the list are the guards. Luigi says the guards and the MDC staff in general are, quote, nothing like what the Shawshank Redemption or the Stanford prison experiments had me believe. While the occasional minor dissent arises, he writes, I've found that they are people too and largely there to help. And that brings me to number 11. This one's my favorite. Number 11 on Luigi's list is Chicken Thursdays and Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. To which Luigi writes, sorry, vegans, it's the realest food here, and I need my strength. So much for principle, because remember, vegan. Number 13 is the 30,000 or so individuals across the globe who have so far donated more than $1 million to his legal defense fund. And I know what you're thinking. If I were one of those people, I might expect higher placement than number 13. But if it's any consolation, donors, Luigi's actual lawyers, the ones who are working to try to, save his life, they come in 14th and 15th. And as for his fans, Luigi gives the Latinas for Mangione a particular shout out at number 16. Granted, that is behind Chicken Thursday, but it is ahead of free speech. Okay, before we go, I do have a quick update for you. In the P. Diddy federal trial in Manhattan, the accuser, known only as Jane, just spent her 5th day on the witness stand and her 2nd under cross-examination, and she is not done yet. And yes, it's a pseudonym, and you're not allowed to see even a chalk rendition of her face. But at one point today, she broke down on the stand over text messages that she sent Diddy professing her, quote, unconditional love. And of course, what the defense attorneys are trying to show was that you were into all that freaky behavior, even though, during the prosecution's case, you said you weren't into it, you were forced into it. She's set to finish her testimony tomorrow. In the meantime, the judge is expected to rule on a request from the prosecution to get rid of one of the jurors. Is juror number 6? He is a black male. The prosecutors say he had shown, quote, a lack of candor with the court. Defense attorneys are pissed because they said, hey, you're trying to get rid of one of the only black guys on the jury. Stay tuned for the judge's decision. That should be coming, I don't know, maybe tomorrow. And speaking of Puff, did you hear that someone got their hands on his jail outfit? An outfit that he's actually worn. Okay, how on earth could that happen, you ask? I've got 24,000 answers for you. Next. A prison outfit worn by Sean Diddy Combs just sold at auction for more than $24,000. But before you start thinking that somebody smuggled a bag of laundry out of the Metropolitan Detention Center in New York, where he is cooling his heels during his current trial, I will point out that this ensemble was actually worn by the accused racketeer and sex trafficker more than 2 decades ago. And no, he was not a prisoner 2 decades ago. This was a costume. He actually wore it when he starred in the Oscar-winning film Monsters Ball. If you don't remember that movie, it was actually really great. Halle Berry won an Oscar. And he was a pretend criminal. He donned the white T-shirt, gray hoodie, and the jeans, and his screen time was actually super short. This is like such an amazing predictor of what he looks like now, though. In the movie, he was actually executed, his character. But he must have made an impression on at least 49 people because all of them bid on that outfit before the winner was announced last Saturday. The buyer's name is not being released, but man, I just want to know, like, who wants that stuff? Anyway, as for Diddy, you can always check out my podcast, Drop Dead Serious, because I've been doing these nightly updates, and there were so many text messages today. You know, the cross-examination's really trying to get under the skin of the accuser, right? She's been on the stand now 5 days. So I've got that in depth. And Karen Reed, the defense rested today. So I've got a podcast on that as well. Just go to dropdeadserious.com and you can check out all of that. One really quick last look at LA before I go, because things are okay, not going crazy. We are 15 seconds to curfew though, but this is what things look like. So let's cross our fingers. Things are, you know, calm in LA, 200 arrested last night, but one can hope things are getting better. Thanks for watching, everyone. Cuomo's next.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.